What if I told you that the guys who lost the most important political debate in American history were actually right about almost everything? Stick around, because this video might permanently change how you think about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and why your government behaves exactly the way the losers predicted it would. We are talking about the Federalist versus Anti-Federalist debate of 1787 and 1788, and before you click away thinking this is just another dry history lecture, let me reframe this for you. This was not a polite academic disagreement between powdered wig gentlemen sipping tea. This was a full-contact political wrestling match over the soul of a nation that had just bled itself dry fighting a tyrannical government. The irony of what happened next is almost too painful to watch. So, here is the setup. The Federalists, your Hamiltons and Madisons, showed up with blueprints for a powerful, centralized government. They were essentially pitching a brand new high-performance engine for the American experiment. Stronger executive, robust federal courts, centralized taxation. The works. Very impressive. Very shiny. Very fast. Then there were the Anti-Federalists. Guys like George Mason, Patrick Henry, and Brutus, who wrote under a pen name because apparently political courage in the 18th century came with a pseudonym. These were the people standing in the back of the room saying, "Excuse me, where are the brakes on this thing? You built us a race car with no seatbelts, and you want us to just trust the driver?" The Federalists called them paranoid. Backwards. Obstacles to progress. Sound familiar? Now here is where the satire gets delicious. The Federalists won the ratification debate. They got their constitution. They got their powerful central government. Champagne all around, gentlemen. Except, and this is the part historians love to quietly skip past, they could only get the thing ratified by promising to immediately add a list of protections for the people against the very government they just created. That list, of course, became the Bill of Rights. The Anti-Federalists did not just lose and go home. They extracted a constitutional restraining order against the winners as the price of their cooperation. That is not losing. That is negotiating from a position of prophetic accuracy. Let us do a little comparison, shall we? Because the Anti-Federalists made some very specific predictions about what an unchecked federal government would eventually do, and then history spent the next 230-something years proving them correct with the enthusiasm of a student who really wants extra credit. Brutus warned that a standing army would become a tool of government overreach rather than a last resort for national defense. Today, the United States has the largest military budget on the planet, maintains bases in roughly 800 locations worldwide, and has been in a state of more or less continuous military engagement since most viewers of this video were born. Brutus could not have picked up a phone to warn you, but he basically did anyway. Patrick Henry screamed from the Virginia Ratifying Convention that a powerful executive would accumulate authority in ways that would make future generations uncomfortable. Today, we have executive orders, emergency powers, regulatory agencies that write their own rules, and a presidency that has expanded so far beyond its original description that the founders would need a map to find the office they created. Henry was not paranoid. He was early. George Mason demanded a Bill of Rights before he would touch the Constitution with a 10-foot quill. He was mocked, marginalized, and ultimately vindicated. Every time you invoke your First Amendment rights, your Fourth Amendment protections, or your right to not have soldiers quartered in your living room, which admittedly comes up less often but still matters, you are using the Anti-Federalist insurance policy. You are living in the house the Federalists built and breathing the air the Anti-Federalists insisted on pumping into it. Now here is the conservative takeaway. And pay attention because this is actually the sophisticated reading of this entire period. The tension between Federalist and Anti-Federalist thinking was never meant to be resolved. It was meant to be permanent. The Federalists were right that you need a functioning engine. You cannot run a nation on pure liberty and good vibes. Someone has to collect taxes, field an army, regulate interstate commerce, and keep the whole enterprise from dissolving into 50 feuding territories. The Federalists understood this. But the Anti-Federalists were right that an engine without brakes is not a vehicle. It is a projectile. Every generation that has watched federal power expand into areas the founders would find unrecognizable is watching the Anti-Federalist nightmare unfold in slow motion. The question was never which side was completely right. The question was whether we would maintain the tension between the two that keeps the republic from becoming either a monarchy or a mob. So when someone tells you the Anti-Federalists were simply on the wrong side of history, ask them this. Which side predicted that government would expand beyond its constitutional limits? Which side demanded written protections for speech, religion, and due process before signing anything? Which side understood that good intentions in government design are not a substitute for structural constraints? The Anti-Federalists were not losers. They were the quality control department that the Federalists desperately needed and only reluctantly hired. History is not a list of winners and losers. It is an ongoing argument, and the people who look like they lost the vote sometimes turn out to have won the argument across the centuries. The Anti-Federalists lost the ratification battle in 1788, and then spent the next 238 years being correct about almost everything they warned you about. We live in a Federalist house. We breathe Anti-Federalist air. And the day we forget which one needs the other is the day the car goes off the cliff they pointed at in 1788. If this video made you think differently about a debate you thought was settled, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe so you never miss the next time history turns out to be more relevant than your morning news. Share this with someone who needs their assumptions challenged, and drop a comment below telling me which Anti-Federalist warning you think aged the best. I will see you in the next one.